right, you're all ready for this conference we're going to call Take Back the American Dream. Yeah. All right, so I want to read you something that's very apropos of this moment. It's a quote from a while ago. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious and makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. And you've got to put your bodies on the gears and upon the wheels and upon the levers and all of the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop, and you've got to indicate to the people who run it and the people who own it that unless you are free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. That's from a speech by Mario Savio almost 50 years ago as the free speech movement was starting. The difference is that those young people lived in a time of affluence. Today, the people who run Wall Street are sucking the life out of the vast majority of the American people, the economic lifeblood. And they're impoverishing the rest of us so that they can accumulate more wealth and monopolize political power. So as we were planning this event, designed to build a movement to challenge and defeat the corporate power that is destroying the American dream, a group of visionaries in New York audaciously decided to occupy Wall Street. And now similar demonstrations are breaking out all over the country. And as you were making your way from around the country to this conference, they were capturing the attention of the American people. On Wednesday, we will follow their example. We're going to Capitol Hill to demand action on jobs. And that's kicking off a week of action around jobs led by the AFL-CIO and lots of other groups around the country. And on Wednesday in New York, there will be a massive show of support and solidarity from groups like ours and the labor movement for what the young people on Wall Street are doing and have done. So we want to open this conference with an exchange between all of us here and the people who have been creatively and non-violently putting their bodies on the gears of the Wall Street machine. I'm sure you saw the pictures of the people on Wall Street drinking champagne, looking down on those demonstrators. It's kind of a Marie Antoinette moment, but we have started something here that is going all over the country. So to open this dialogue, I want you to welcome someone who's really worked hard to make this conference a big success. Please welcome Liz Butler of Rebuild the Dream.
So I am super excited to see how many people rearrange their schedules to come here this morning for this important moment, for us to really address what's happening on the ground with Occupy Wall Street. And I also wanted to personally thank on behalf of Rebuild the Dream, the Campaign for America Futures staff, Roger, and everybody for readjusting the entire agenda for a conference they've been planning for a year to start it a half an hour early because they recognize the importance of this moment and how we are all in this together, and that it was so critical for us to actually see what's happening on the ground, since so many of us have been watching it from a side or seeing the press reports or hearing from people who have gone down there, to actually hear from them directly. So I want you to join me in thanking them for making this possible. So to start things off, in the last 24 hours, we've asked the very busy people at Occupy Wall Street to be able to send us a message, to tell us exactly what's going on and how we can help them. They spent until like 2:30 in the morning creating us a video to make sure that there wasn't any technical difficulties to be able to share that with you. And I'm going to have the video start in just a second so that we can really hear from them for the next 5 minutes. And then there's going to be a couple of us that are actually going to talk about what's going on and how this relates to everything that we're going to be discussing for the next 3 days. Is the video ready?
are no longer that generation that's prepared to sit back and take whatever they give us. We are now the generation at the heart of the fight back. We are now the generation that will stand with everyone who's fighting back. The most inspiring thing, I think, was that just after Wednesday, hundreds of people joined a Facebook group, school students joined a Facebook group in solidarity with RMT members on strike. Those are people who previously thought tube strikes was something annoying because they stopped them getting into school. Now they think they've got to link arms and fight back with everyone. So we want to show solidarity with everyone who's fighting back. We hope you'll show solidarity with us and send a strong message to this government that they can't throw their cuts at us. We're going to stand up and we're going to fight back.
Now the video's down.
So it looks like we're having some technical difficulties with the video, which we were a little worried about given the circumstances of people sleeping on the streets and trying to create a video for us, which is a little understandable. We will figure out a time later on in the conference to be able to actually play the video. But the great news is I'm going to turn it over to Lenore, who's going to introduce someone who literally just came from New York from Occupy Wall Street that can actually give us a sense of what's going on.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, my name is Lenore, and I'm just here to introduce Nalini Stamp. Nalini is a badass organizer with the Working Families Party in New York. She's been a part of Occupy Wall Street since the beginning, and she's been doing the really critical work that I think we're all here to figure out. How do we build and support movements as they grow and pop up all over the country over the next weeks and years to come? So, Nalini.
I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you for allowing me to speak about this. I got political when me and my family got evicted when I was 17 years old. I joined the Working Families Party because I agreed with what they were fighting for. And then a couple of months ago, I heard about this occupation. We're occupying Wall Street on September 17th. It was getting around, spreading around, student circles, all the different groups that we were a part of. So I said, let me check it out. I went down there, and I didn't realize that it was going to change my life. That day, I wasn't prepared to camp out or anything, but I saw the people so desperate because they were being pushed so far by the top 1% in this country, and so desperate to look for answers because they were disenfranchised by the political system, that I slept on some cardboard, put some cardboard on top of myself, and joined the occupation of Wall Street. I realized there as well that they needed help, and as a political organizer, my day job, that I could help them with that. So I started, quietly, pressuring, the labor folks that I knew, community organizations, just to come on down and check it out, just to see what was going on there. And then they started to really take off. We had $11.99 donate 250 pizzas and water. We had, groups like, Move On, councils from Manhattan come down and address the General Assembly. And it was beautiful and amazing. And, everyone can help. You don't have to sleep there to help out. Trust me. I've only slept there a couple of days. And now we've been joining picket lines, going to picket lines for CWA, picketing outside of Verizon, picketing with the postal workers, picketing with, in front of Sotheby's, and telling everybody that we show solidarity with all the organizations out there and that they can show solidarity with us. I got sent to organize this great march that's going to happen on Wednesday, where labor is going to finally come out and community organizations are going to finally come out and really take this movement to a different level. Sorry. So I ask all of you, any way that you can, any of the occupations, I think we're up to 53 cities in the United States of America. And I think that anyone here can help out. And also, last but not least, a lot of people have asked about demands. We don't need demands. If we demand something from Wall Street, we're telling them that they have the power. And we have the power because we have strength in numbers. So remember that when you think about the demands, and remember that when you think you join. And thank you for all for being here.
Thank you very much. It's so important and inspiring to actually hear from someone who has been on the ground in New York and sleeping on the streets. I give you much kudos for doing that, and all of us do. I now wanted to introduce Tracy Van Slyke from the New Bottom Line, who is fighting for everyday people's bottom line versus corporate bottom line.
Good morning, everybody. I am Tracy Van Slyke. I am the co-director of the New Bottom Line. I want to take you from New York to Boston last Friday, and I'm going to take a risk and hope technology is working. Can we roll the video from New Bottom Line? I'll give it a second. That's just a short clip. If you didn't hear what she was saying at the end, people were chanting, "What do you do when the banks attack?" And she was saying back, "Stand up, fight back." That was 1,000 people in Boston who marched and shut down Bank of America, and where many people were arrested. It was organized by Right to the City and a lot of other Massachusetts allies. But that was the third action that's happening in 10 cities around the country over 6 weeks that are taking on the big banks. And 2 weeks ago in Seattle, in Washington State, people invaded the annual policy summit of the Association of Washington Businesses that was sponsored by JP Morgan Chase. And then they shut down the intersection outside of JP Morgan Chase in Seattle, where 11 people were arrested. Last week in San Francisco, people gathered trash from foreclosed homes and delivered it to Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Citibank. And it doesn't stop there. This week in LA, the spotlight's on LA. Next week in Chicago and Minneapolis, the heat is turning up. We're moving on to Denver, New York, and we're going as far as Honolulu. So if you want to join me in Honolulu, that might be an exciting place to go. But the New Bottom Line, what is the New Bottom Line? The New Bottom Line is a new and growing coalition. It's a movement, actually, fueled by a coalition of grassroots organizing groups like National People's Action, PICO National Network, Alliance for a Just Society. And what's really unique about this movement is that it's fueled by local organizing groups, not DC. And it's bringing the people together on the local, national, and state level. And we're in 30 states right now. And we work with people and represent people from all walks of life. We're working with struggling and middle-class communities. We're working with African Americans, Latinos, family farmers, laborers, unemployed, students. And this is really, really important because many of these communities are the ones that have been in an economic crisis for decades. All right? And now they're on the precipice. And they're also being used as a scapegoat by the right and the corporate agenda for why we're having an economic crisis. And we know that's not true. We're going after a new bottom line because we believe for far too long this country has put the corporate bottom line before everyday people's bottom line. We want an economy that works for all of us. Good jobs, healthy communities we deserve, and a government that fights for everyday people, right? Yeah. So through these different pay us back actions, we're demanding that the big banks pay us back for the millions of illegally foreclosed homes, for the billions of dollars they've gotten through taxpayer-funded bailouts, and the more than $1 trillion they're sitting on. So we want them to pay their fair share of taxes. We also want them, this sounds wonky, but we want them to do principal reduction for all underwater homeowners. We put out a report recently that said if they do that principal reduction for all underwater homeowners to current market value, we would create $71 billion in revenue a year and 1 million jobs. We also want them to invest in small businesses to create the jobs that we so desperately need and deserve. Okay? So I just want to close, but I'm going to ask Vicki right here to stand up. Vicki Dillard, she's fighting for her home in Denver, Colorado. She's part of the new bottom line, and she's fighting because you can either stay silent or you can fight back, and she feels the power, and she wants to invite all of you to stand up, fight back as well. I hope you all can join us at 2 o'clock for our panel where we're going to be talking about all of this. I'm going to be joined by George Gale of National People's Action and Stephen Lerner of SEIU, and we want you to work with us to fight back. All right, thank you very much.
So now you get both me and Lenore at the same time. And the funny thing is, while sitting there, she said, you have to make sure that we're moving the mic around because you might notice there's a little bit of a height difference between the two of us. So
Takes all kinds.
it does take all kinds. But I want to say, this is such an amazing moment. I think all of us can feel it. We're all on the cusp. And we've seen it. I look around the room. I know some people who spent some time in many other earlier movements and talk about this moment when it was all coming together and everyone was starting to fight. If you think back over the last century of when we've been successful, suffragettes, the labor movement, the environmental movement, the civil rights movement, all of the movements we've been fighting for, they have actually had a time where they succeed when we start fighting in Congress, fighting them at the ballot box, fighting them in the courts, fighting them in the streets with both marches and direct actions. When the people actually rise up on all fronts is when we win. And movements have unexpected, amazing moments. We are in one of those unexpected, amazing moments. And that, my friends, is what the American Dream Movement is all about. It is actually about Wall Street to Capitol Hill to K Street to Main Street.
So we've heard some about what's happening across the country. We've heard about New York. We've heard about D.C. I'm going to tell you a couple other stories about the people who make up this movement. So it's Wisconsin. You may have heard of Wisconsin, maybe. Well, earlier this year, there was a movement moment, right? There was Greg. Greg is a father who's a retired union member. He also brought his daughter, who's a teacher who works with children with special needs, who is driving 100 miles back and forth to get to her job every day. Both of their jobs were on the line, and they were there in Wisconsin the entire time. It's Tiffany. Where's Tiffany? Tiffany, you're here. You're here. Tiffany is an Army reservist. She's been unemployed. She organized an American Dream House meeting this summer in July, was one of hundreds across the country, to bring together people in Bridgeport, Connecticut to create the contract for the American Dream. And she's speaking out at the rally that we're having this Wednesday on Capitol Hill about how we cannot let the American Dream fail. It's Diane. Diane is in West Virginia. She's planning about how to go after Senator Joe Manchin by organizing unemployed veterans, because West Virginia, there's a lot of unemployed veterans, to show up on Veterans Day at an event he's going to be at and call him out for not supporting jobs for people in West Virginia. And it's Vicki. Vicki's here. Stand up, Vicki. She's from Denver, Colorado. She's fighting to save her home, and she's a leader in the New Bottom Line. So there's leaders of the American Dream Movement all over the country, and we know what's happening in New York. We know what's happening in what we're doing here in D.C. It's Nalini, it's Tiffany, it's Vicki, it's Diane, and it's all of us here today. We all have to be leaders.
The great thing is, everyone in this room already is a leader. So I am calling on all of us leaders to think about what's next. So here's some tangible things that we know are next. One, we are taking this to Capitol Hill on Wednesday. Everyone in this room is getting on a bus so that we can make sure that we're showing up and saying, we want jobs, not cuts. The very next day, Occupy K Street is starting. It's from Wall Street to K Street here in Washington, D.C. There's going to be people turning out and starting to occupy Freedom Plaza and other places near K Street to send the same message to the corporate lobbyists that are being sent to Congress and Wall Street. We are also going to have a brown bag lunch to talk more about New York and make sure that people can think about how we can help occupy Wall Street and also how we can spread the energy of this movement moment. And that's going to be in Lincoln West tomorrow during lunch. Is that right?
Yep. Yes,
Great.
Lincoln West tomorrow during lunch. So we're here at the beginning of this amazing conference, right? It's basically just getting started. We're also here in the middle of this movement moment, right? It's a beautiful moment of convergence of those of us working for jobs, working against cuts, against the banks, against Wall Street, for our futures. Some of what we've been doing is planned. Some of what we've been doing is not planned. It's happening. It's happening to us right now, and we have to seize the moment all together. But it's not fated to work. It's not just going to work out well because we want it to or because we're smart or right or have good ideas, right? It's going to take all of us blood, sweat, and tears putting everything we have on the line to make it work. So we're going to ask everybody here at the beginning of this conference together to commit to doing what it takes to make this a movement moment.
Now, I want everyone in this room to stand up to make the commitment to a broad American movement to take back the American dream. Everyone look around. Look at the leaders we have. Look at what we have already started.